everyone, and welcome to the Sweet Tea series. I'm your host and creative director at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, Taylor Dawson. We're bringing you the straight talk you crave on all things policy, family, work, and what it means to be a woman today. This podcast is for all the strong, principled, fiercely intelligent women out there who aren't afraid to spill the tea and challenge the status quo. So grab your cup, cozy up, and let's dive into the conversations that matter most. We'll be talking with Julie Warren. She is the Deputy Director of Right on Crime here at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Julie, tell us a little about yourself.
I am from West Virginia, which I think is very noticeable from the accent. I'm from the Appalachia area and was born and raised in Huntington, West Virginia.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it Appalachian or Appalachia?
That's a good question because it's very mixed. My mom says Appalachian and I say Appalachian. So
what do the people in the area do?
Well, we're Appalachian.
Yeah.
There's a civil war.
Oh, wow.
There's no consensus. There's no consensus. So it's very odd. But I grew up in a small town. My mom was a kindergarten teacher. My dad was a Baptist pastor. And they really empowered me to learn and grow and dream and chase and be ambitious and be strong. And that's really what gave me the foundation to not to leave West Virginia, it's a scary place, you know, I mean, to leave, you know, something so small and insulated to go to the big bad world of Washington, D.C., but they gave me the foundation and the confidence to do it. So that's just sent me on to the trajectory. And now I'm in Austin, Texas, sitting here talking to y'all.
Yeah, it's interesting you say like small town. So I was raised in like a South Dallas area, and everyone just kind of became teachers or nurses, and that was like no female was ever really like challenged to like step beyond, you know, the status quo of just like, you know, this is what chicks do, you're gonna get married, you're gonna do this, and you know, just here's your trajectory. But it sounds like you, because you're a lawyer now, and you worked in all these amazing with all these amazing opportunities. How was your foundation growing up in a rural area inspired to like just leave and not be a teacher or nurse? Not that those aren't amazing jobs. It's just...
It was something that stepped out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's an amazing job if that's what you want to do.
Right.
But if you're told that's the only thing you can do and you're limited to something, no matter what that job is, it's not allowing that person to fulfill their purpose. And I had a dad that just really believed in me and demanded that I believe in myself.
I love it.
And he just did not allow me to place limits on myself. And he never allowed me to say, well, because I'm a girl, I can't. And he just, I mean, you know, and it was interesting because I have an older sister, so he had two girls. And he would be like, girls, stay up and watch Monday Night Football with me. I mean, we didn't have to if we didn't want to, but he didn't say, I'm going to assume because you're girls, you're not going to want to watch football with me.
Right.
Yeah.
He just allowed us to explore all the things that we were interested in and didn't limit us. And my mom is the same way. My mom is a strong woman. She just kind of exhibited it in her own life and how she just functioned, her strength. But my dad just did not allow us to box ourselves in and limit our potential. And as I grew, I just chased opportunities. They were scary.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a lot of a safety net by way of, you know, family wealth.
Oh,
and a
I
lot
totally get that 100%.
But I think that my dad was, and my mom and you know, I grew up in a strong Christian family. So they're like, if God has a plan for you, don't limit yourself.
Yeah.
Because don't place limits on yourself. Just chase them and do the right thing. And that's what I've just been doing. And now I'm 44 years old, just still doing that.
Love it. So you went to college.
Yes. Went to college at Marshall University in my hometown because it was what my family could afford. But it was it gave me all the education I needed. It didn't, I didn't get gypped in any way. It gave me, if I wanted the education, it was there to give me the tools necessary to go to the next level, and it did. And so then I went on to law school in DC and did all that DC, you know, thing that people do when they're trying to chase a political career and policy career. And it was a blast.
That's
I had
awesome.
so much fun.
That's awesome. So you shared with us, or you've shared with me, like this really cool story of when you were at the courts. Was it in D.C.?
Yeah, it was in the Eastern District of Virginia. It's Alexandria, Virginia.
Right,
Yeah.
which is like, for anyone who doesn't know, is super like a stone's throw away from Washington, D.C.
Yes.
And so, yeah, tell us about that story because it sounded like it was really impactful for you.
Yeah, well, I think that it was humbling. And I think that sometimes when you're really a go-getter and you're 25 years old and you're getting opportunities and you're just chasing them,
Yeah.
sometimes though it is always important to be humbled a little bit and to maintain some context and perspective. And I was given this opportunity to be a special assistant U.S. attorney in Alexandria. I was really like 25, 26, and it was a lot of responsibility. And I think I got a little cocky, and I do think that prosecutors and folks with a lot of power can easily not think about the object of the consequences, the real human consequences to their wielding it. And I kind of fell into that really quickly and went into to do a sentencing because there was a prosecutor who had handled the underlying case. The individual had pled. And so I was handling the sentencing portion. I don't know if he was going on vacation. I can't remember the whole backstory. But I'd never met the well, at this point, he was a convicted felon. I had never met him. He was just a pre-sentence report. So he was just, his life on paper was what I knew. And all of the things that he had ever done in his life.
So you're this like 25-year-old, you're in office, this case gets dropped in your lap, and all you do is have a rap sheet of him from like 18 to where he is now, of just
Right.
all the wrong things that he's done,
Right.
all the convictions he's had.
Right. And it set him up for like, okay, so what your sentencing guidelines are going to be. So it was like, I think it was, if I remember correctly, 20 to 35 years based on his pre-sentence report. And the guidelines are set in law. And then, as the prosecutor, we were told to go in and always ask for the high end of the guidelines. That's what you do. Just wield the hammer as hard, or just swing it as hard as you can. And that's what I went in and did. And I kind of went in cocky with this sense of like I'm wearing the white hat. I'm the one doing the right thing, with a little bit of self-righteousness. And this individual comes in to the courtroom. It was the first time I ever laid eyes on him. He's really like maybe 23. He's in my age group.
Right.
And he looks like he's 12. And he is so scared. I mean, he's shaking. Because now things have gotten very real. And I saw him and I just could not take my eyes off of him. And I remember thinking, this is a human being. And I started to really question, okay, so I got to go ask for the high end of the guidelines. So I go up to the, podium, Julie Warren for the United States, and I asked for the high end of the guidelines based on his pre-sentence report. The judge, who was just an older, wise, but very tough judge, he was always known for being extraordinarily tough. He said, "Thank you, ma'am, sit down." I'm like, okay. And I sat there and listened while he actually got to know the man and got to understand the humanity and the process by which all of us had kind of, the system itself had failed. So this was a young boy who, I think his mother had died, his father was in jail, his brother was in jail, he'd gone into foster care, and the system just like tossed him around, then expected a good outcome. And during the course of his, juvenile career in crime, they never really gave him help. And I'm not making excuses. He committed a criminal act, and a criminal consequence needs to take place. But if the criminal justice system doesn't see the human being that they're dealing with, then they're never going to get the outcome. What they're going to get is someone who started out with small time crime and then all of a sudden graduates to where you have a human victim.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not like you start at something really small and then you just go to something extreme. It's a buildup. And so that leads us into where you work now, Right on Crime. Can you just give like a brief explanation for the audience of like what that is?
So it is a campaign of the Texas Public Policy Foundation. It's a national campaign. We're in 14 states and expanding into more states. And what we try to go in and do is help lawmakers, stakeholders, understand what good criminal justice policy looks like. You have the folks on the left who are really diminishing the idea of accountability having any role in the criminal justice system, and that's insane. That's irresponsible. Right on Crime would never diminish the importance of accountability. If you have a human victim, they demand and they deserve justice, and that only comes with accountability. You just can't be like, I feel sorry for you, don't go and don't do that again. But there is a need for redemption, because if you don't work on redeeming that individual away from a life of crime, all you're getting is someone who is going to be constantly graduating to different levels of crime, which is what I had in that courtroom that day. And I went from that role to the West Virginia Attorney General's office, where I did a lot of work with the Solicitor General and in the criminal appellate work. And when the West Virginia Attorney General's office gets a criminal case, it's usually a pretty violent case, and it's usually something we're taking to the Supreme Court, West Virginia Supreme Court, or the Fourth Circuit. And you get these big court cases and court files where you get to see how an individual went from a juvenile to just absolutely devolving into something where now they're just in it. And now they're numb, and now people are going to be hurt, and you just see, man, if we could just get it right earlier. But that takes a focus on redemption, and that's not soft on crime.
It's right on crime.
It's right on crime.
Yeah. And I think talking about like both your experience with public safety and that story, I know that's not the only piece of your past that actually influenced that for you, but just to real quick introduce myself, my name is Ariana. I'm one of the videographers here. And yeah, the Right on Crime initiative, I think, takes a look at the criminal justice system in a way that's both different than the left and the right in the country have taken in the past, because it prioritizes public safety, and it does that by focusing on the people in the system as well as how they impact their communities. And I'd like you to share the story a little bit about your dad and how that's influenced this as well.
Well, it's interesting because when I worked at the Department of Justice, my dad understood what I did for a living. When I worked in the Attorney General's office, my dad understood what I did for a living. When I came to Right on Crime, he's like, I have no idea what it is you do. I'm proud of you, but I don't understand it. So my parents actually moved to Nashville. I live in Nashville. So they moved to Nashville, and my dad, who was a retired pastor, really still wanted to have an impact in the world. Because he was retired, it didn't mean he didn't still have a calling and a purpose. And he started volunteering with a ministry that Right on Crime actually has partnered with for quite a few years, called Men of Valor. And they actually work with men in prison and help them transition into the real world. And some of these, when you think about it, 95% of people who are in prison will be released. What condition do you want them to be released? Do you want them redeemed or not? It's much better for public safety if they come out better than they are when they come in. Right? So Men of Valor really focuses on that, but it is a Christian ministry. And my dad has started to volunteer doing a Bible study twice a week with these men, and he loves it. And it's like 15. He's had a guy in his class that was in prison for murder, and my dad's like, I love the guy.
Wow.
He's changed. I mean, he did his time, and he needed to do his time, but you could see God did not give up on this guy, and this guy has a purpose and a meaning for his existence. And so my dad just is like, Julie, I get what you do now, even though I know you're not doing it from the spiritual aspect. Right. I mean, I'm not doing a ministry. I'm in public policy. He's like, I understand that if these guys don't change, they go back to the life that caused them to jeopardize public safety, that's destabilized their homes, that destabilized their communities, and destabilized them.
Yeah.
And now I get it. And it's not it makes just perfect sense because I'm watching these people change and I'm getting to know them and the human being, not just the statistic or the headline.
And I think that we can segue into the policy pulse kind of with this. So sometimes we'll be talking about a news story that has to do with what you're doing, but I think I'd actually love to hear about a bit what Right on Crime has been doing, going to different areas of the country and talking more about what life looks like for people whenever they leave the prison system.
Well, it's one challenge after another. So, Alice Marie Johnson, who a lot of you might have heard of, she was pardoned by President Donald Trump.
Is this the one that like Kim Kardashian was involved in? And
Okay.
yes.
And she actually worked with TPPF for a couple years. And so we have this great relationship with her. She was in prison for, I might get this right, but around 25 years.
Oh my gosh.
So just imagine what the world changed in 25 years. Talking to Matthew Charles, who was the first individual released under the First Step Act, he didn't know he had never had to use a cell phone before.
Interesting.
The internet.
So literally technology
I guess
has
that's not
changed
something you usually think about with
a ton.
with what we're
Correct.
doing.
Yeah. So the world had changed. And so often when you're released from prison, it typically happens, I don't think a lot of people realize this, they usually drop you off at a bus station around midnight and they give you $100. Now, unless you have someone who's going to be picking you up.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea.
Yeah,
that
so
that's
you're
what it's
just
like.
released into the world. Now, if you're released on parole, then you'll be given a parole officer to check in with. But you're told you got to get a job. You got to have a housing, but you got to be in a housing situation that doesn't have you housed next to other felons. And then you have all of these landlords and different opportunities that are closed to people with any kind of record. So finding something as simple as just a place to rent is sometimes very difficult. Men of Valor is very helpful because they help provide transitional housing. So,
There's a place for them to go.
there's a place to land that isn't back into the life that they left to go back into prison. The gang-ridden area or the abusive home or the drug addict brother who you'll go in and you have drug problems yourself. So it gives you a safe space, but without that, your chances of good outcomes by way of having someone not commit another crime, or you're hurting yourself from a policy standpoint. We have all of these obstacles for people getting a job, but we also make it a condition on employment, condition for release for them to have one.
Yeah.
And it really, one of the things that I think Right on Crime has done a great job is really educating lawmakers as to the regulatory schemes and impact and prohibitions around occupational licensing for folks with criminal records. So,
And what's occupational licensing?
so like having a cosmetology license.
Okay, so just like something as simple as like doing hair.
Yeah. So and the irony is that a lot of these types of skills we train in prison. So one of the most robust skills training is cosmetology and is barbering. And you can give someone all the training while they're in prison, give them an actual certificate to show that they'd had the training, and when they go apply for a license, once they're released, reject it because they have a criminal record. So that's,
Wow.
and when you talk to lawmakers about that, they're like,
Hold on, that doesn't make
that
sense.
doesn't make sense. We should want them to get the job and get the employment and to be able to pay for their homes and be able to pay taxes and do those things. So that was one area where I think Right on Crime, using our common sense, using our conservative principles, because, having access to the market and having access to use your skills to get a job is something that Republicans should be fighting harder than anyone in the country.
Yeah.
And when you say, okay, you're going to fight for that, but not for those with a criminal record, explain that.
Yeah, it doesn't balance
And like
out.
you said, it could be a matter of public safety when what happens to all these people who are eventually released from prison if there's nothing for them to do or anywhere to go.
Yeah, and here's the perfect example of why redemption isn't soft on crime. So for the most part in America, we have about a 55% recidivism rate. That means
Recidivism
means they reoffend. So it means within 3 years, someone leaving prison reoffends. So 55% of those leaving prison will reoffend in less than 3 years.
So if I go out and, well, what's a federal thing? Whatever. I steal something from a store and I get thrown in jail and then I get out. I have a 55% chance of going back in and taking something again.
Or
or
committing any crime, finding yourself back in prison. Whether it's because you're on probation and you violate a condition of your probation, or you do commit another crime. Let's say, you have a history of drug crime and you go back into selling drugs again, whatever, because you couldn't find another job. So in America, 55% reoffense rate. That's a 55% fail rate. Okay.
Is that a lot higher than other places?
In other countries? Oh, yes. But for instance, men of valor, you know what their recidivism rate is?
What is it?
15.
Wow.
So they're focused on redemption and saying, okay, we're going to invest in you as a person because 95% of the folks are going to be released. Do you want them to reoffend or not? And the idea that focusing on redemption is soft on crime is insane.
Yeah.
It shows a lot of ignorance.
Yeah.
It shows that you're focused on a criminal justice system that allows you to be angry, but it doesn't allow you to get any good outcome as a result of your anger.
Yeah. So you mentioned Alice Johnson, right? With the Kim Kardashian. And as soon as you said that, I was like, isn't Kim getting her law degree right now?
She is.
Or, I do keep up with that. So
You keep up with that Kardashian.
it's my little, what is it, like guilty pleasure? Just like I secretly will grab
she has like 300 million Twitter or Instagram followers. I think you're in the
She's been on
I'm
my
in the norm.
YouTube on the shorts every single day, so I've fallen into it as well.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm not
no,
the
you're
only
not
one.
the only one.
Yeah.
So that's a good segue into our next segment, Pop Cultures with Principles.
Okay.
So a story that caught your eye recently, we heard, Taylor Swift's Eras tour is happening.
Yeah.
I've heard something about the Eras tour.
It's so huge. Like, I do not think you can escape seeing
She took
every
over
single show.
Nashville for like 4 days.
I think she's the first, fact check me here, but I think that she's the first, this is the first tour to gross over $1 billion.
I would not be surprised.
I think you might
insane.
be right. I think it was, I'm trying to remember who it was that had grossed higher from her at a concert night before, and then she just broke that. I think it was Madonna, but I'm not sure.
I loved that she broke Madonna.
I think it was. I think
Madonna. That's such a great.
Yeah. But you actually live in Tennessee, so you saw that. Or how was it for everyone there when this was happening?
It was just all Taylor all the time.
Oh, me? Oh. Do I think she's still a part of my identity? A little bit.
Yeah.
Tall, the blonde hair.
Yeah, if you got,
Taylor.
Look,
Taylor, the name.
She's an impressive talent, and she's an impressive businesswoman, and she's handled herself with an extraordinary sense of savvy that whether you like her music or not, if you don't respect, that means either you're not paying attention or maybe there's something wrong with your worldview. You'll have, because what she has
I'm not even
to
a Taylor
accomplish-
Swift music fan, but just her showmanship and what she's done on stage with this tour, I don't think you can't leave that being unimpressed.
She is a boss, man.
I love it. So
She is.
specifically, the Taylor Swift "Speak Now, Better Than Revenge," that song. So she had to rewrite it. I don't know if the audience is aware of this, but had to rewrite it, her hit, because it was, quote, not being a good feminist,
right,
due to her slut shaming.
Yeah.
And what's happening? She's re-releasing all of her music, or did you know that background part, Taylor, of how she's re-releasing all of her stuff because of the record deal she had? Again, an impressive thing,
right?
But with her new one, she had to rewrite her lyric.
Yeah, so this was a lyric, and I'm not going to remember the lyric correctly, but I don't know that that's as important. So it was a lyric from 2010. Mm-hmm. She's releasing it. Well, I don't know how old she would have been, 18, 19. Now she's just a 33-year-old woman releasing this music. And when she came out with that song, I don't remember. I remember not paying that much attention and still hearing about the criticism,
Right.
because there was this sense that she's suggesting that this individual who she's referring to in the lyric gets the attention and gets her way by using her sexuality.
Okay, so the girl in the song is getting the attention
Well,
by
she's
using...
targeting. There's some girl Taylor Swift's mad at.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
this lyric
yeah.
is directed at her, but we don't know who she is.
Sure.
But she's commenting on the idea that this girl is getting attention and moving forward based on her sexuality, and Taylor Swift's criticizing of that is making her a bad feminist and a slut shamer.
Because...
And that's a really good question, because what? I mean, that, and I think that's the real, I don't know that that's a fair criticism at all, because
Like, what is a good feminist? Like, that you just get to walk around however you want wearing clothes and you get to be a sex worker. So, like, you have to just support...
They say, okay, a good feminist is us saying you can do anything you want.
Right.
No, I mean, there is a...
Like, there's such a thing as virtue for everyone. Like, we can criticize, like, bad behavior or, like, or less desirable behavior from anyone. That doesn't matter.
Yeah,
if you're a woman or not.
and so, like, I think the underlying premise of this story, I don't know if there's any truth to it. I don't know, but there was the sense of a girl taking away her boyfriend and using her, sexuality to do it, to allure him away, because, maybe she would do things that Taylor wouldn't do, or whoever the other character in the song.
Sure.
And to criticize that is to be a bad feminist, because to be a bad feminist is to be able to do anything you want without consequence.
So Taylor was attacked because she was essentially attacking another girl in her song. And so she being Taylor, eventually rewrote the song so that she's not demeaning this girl, because that was not very feminist of her.
Because she was being a bad feminist. I don't know if Taylor Swift actually bought into that criticism, or if she's doing so much in her career. She's got this Eras tour. She has this relaunch that she's just like, look, it's not worth the conversation, and I don't want the distraction, so I'll just change it. Okay, calm down.
And it was so many years ago that she might also just be kind of over the
over it.
the incident. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she's like, it's not a battle I'm going to fight. But I think it doesn't really bother me that she changed the lyric, because again, she just probably was just trying to find the path of least resistance, and she probably doesn't care enough to fight for it. And I get that. But my problem is just like, is that what feminism is now? Is just this, you can't criticize anyone's bad choices, even regardless of the consequence and the families that it could, and the destruction.
Yeah.
I just think that's just a real... I don't think we're doing women any justice by saying that applying any standard or virtue is wrong. I think we
makes
should.
you strive for less, if anything.
It really does. I mean, and I think that I don't know. I just felt like it was a poor representation of what young girls should hold out as how we should be treating other women.
Yeah, and then you wonder, it's like, okay, who's the one like making this claim? Is it like a really small minority that's just very loud, or is it like all of her fans are saying this is bad? I mean, I just feel like with media in general, you're going to get you never really know where the critique is coming from specifically. And with social media being like an echo chamber, a small segment of the society can just be prolific online and make someone as huge as Taylor Swift completely change their lyrics in a song to say something else, which is just crazy to me. And I know Right on Crime has their fingers in so many different areas, and which is great. Do you want to shoot us off on the final segment, the Conservative Council?
Sure, we can. We actually have a question today from a girl named Caitlin from Waco. And right now she's getting she said that she's getting her degree, and she wants to know how to continue to pursue her career and be feminine without falling into the extremist feminist trap that's out there.
You know, I don't really understand why women feel like they need to. What the feminist trap is like, do they need to try to be like a man? You know, do they need to not embrace being a woman and say, I love the color pink. I love to wear, you know, I want to go see the Barbie movie. I want to have kids. I want to learn to cook and bake. And is that, I mean, at what point are we saying these things that you genuinely, authentically like to do is not true because it's really just, you know, society telling you that's the role of a woman? You know, if you can go to college, because I have a friend who is literally, she was like to John Hopkins. I mean, she's a surgeon, and she's like absolutely one of the most powerhouse people. You can't deny that she's one of those people who just achieve. Mm-hmm. She also loves to bake.
Love it.
And she is probably she probably owns more Lily Pulitzer than anyone. I mean, she's just like, look, you're not going to tell me what a feminine woman is. You don't get to put, and I think, you know, it's so interesting because the left creates more boxes and limitations than they could actually credibly accuse the right of doing.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And I think that if whatever career path you're trying to find, be you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think leaning on your strengths would be the advice that I would give, because I think like there's just whenever you're in a workplace, I think I've noticed just in meetings, whenever it's like mixed crowd of different people and ideas, the things that you're going to bring to the table is something that can actually really help the workspace that you're in, and vice versa.
And being a feminine, embracing, if you really love girly things, and you look through the lens of a very like girly girl way, whatever that might be.
That's me.
Yeah, no, that's great. And if you want to be a mother, embrace all of that and bring that to the table when you're pursuing your career. Allow that to inform your perspective. Allow it to make you smarter. And then contribute to a conversation with people who may not have experienced that. You might be at a table full of men who've never birthed a kid. Well, I have. Well, I haven't. But, you know, but I'm saying, you know, or they don't understand from a woman's point of view. Embrace the fact that you're a woman, and don't feel like you need to be more like a man in order to be compelling and to achieve. I think that's
because I think as soon as you try to act like something that you're not, that's whenever it can actually get in the way of pursuing things. So like you said, but be okay and confident in your interests while you pursue stuff. Right?
Yeah, and I think that modern feminism is like having this like weird, awkward moment where it's like, okay, it's not like the hard like pantsuit, you're not gonna have kids and you're just, wow, aggressive hand movements, you're not gonna have kids and you're just gonna like be a boss lady and you're gonna be a man and you're gonna dominate. And then it was like, yeah, we can do all that and have kids and do this, but it was just such extremes. And then it kind of, I feel like, overshadowed the woman who's like, well, what if I just want to stay at home and raise babies? Like, does that make me not a strong female? Like, am I not a strong woman because I'm doing that? And it's like, no, I think that being a stay-at-home mom is a very powerful position. It's incredibly important. But like, if you want to have a career on top of that, amazing. If you don't want to have kids and you want to focus on your career as a woman and you're girly, that's great. It's like, don't let the left stick you in one box or the other.
Or tell you you're less than because, you know, you didn't embrace some concept that would have taken you in a direction that wasn't what you envisioned for yourself.
I think what you were saying about just having opportunities before you whenever you were younger, and I think like, because you mentioned that was something that was pretty inspiring to you, is just to like be told, yes, you can, so that you can I think having that choice aspect, which it seems like the feminist extreme or feminism went from being, let's allow for choices within your life to you have to choose this one set of choices.
Yeah, I mean, I think the left puts women in very extreme boxes. I think a strong, powerful woman is a woman who knows who she is.
Oh, I like it.
And is a woman who knows what she wants, and whatever if it's to pursue a life of raising a family, that's amazing. If that's if that's the path that God puts you on, and that, be strong in that and own that space and own your voice, regardless of what job you take, whether you're a doctor or a lawyer or a lawmaker or a stay-at-home teacher or nurse. Just own your space and own who you are, and be like, God called me to this. I'm embracing it, and I'm going to have confidence in that. And to me, that's a strong woman.
I love it. From the boss lady herself, Julie Warren, mic drop.
Oh,
That's awesome. Well, it's been so amazing having you on the podcast. Where can we follow you online?
so Right on Crime, it's www.rightoncrime.com. My Twitter is Jules, Julesa Warren. I have to. You just get on the app, and you're like, I don't even know what my Twitter handle is anymore, because you're like, So yeah, that's where you. But I would really encourage people to look at Right on Crime, and really educate yourself as to a criminal justice system that has, as an aspect of your government, that has a very direct impact on your life.
Truly, that's a good point. Most of the time, legislation, like, you can't tell like where it lands. Like, oh, they're just dealing within DC, but this trickle down is like
You feel it.
yeah, you feel
You
it.
feel it. Like you're living in Austin.
Yeah.
I mean, you feel the breakdown, don't you? I mean, it makes you, when you feel less safe going to the grocery store, it impacts you. Let's learn more about how we can fix it.
Good point. All right, well, that's a wrap for today's episode of the Sweet Tea series. I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our incredible guest.
Thank you for having me. It's great.
Been fun. Yeah.
It's been fun, for sharing your valuable insight and all of your wisdom. If you've enjoyed her perspective and want to stay updated on her work, be sure to follow her on Twitter at Jules A. Warren, and learn more about Right on Crime at rightoncrime.com. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time.